Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. In this video, we'll be talking about the HAKUTO-R Lunar mission and the lunar lander from the Japanese company ispace. Please remember to like and subscribe. Alright, fact 1. First private lunar lander. The HAKUTO Lunar Lander is really the first ever in the world that is entirely funded by a private company. Up to this point, all lunar missions and scientific observations to the moon is done by governments. The HAKUTO mission is the first one undertaken by a private company. And so without the use of public funds, it's incredible that they can achieve and was able to launch this thing to the moon. Unfortunately, it was a failed mission and the lunar lander was not able to successfully land on the moon and instead crashed upon the attempt. However, it is a still important milestone, and so we'll begin to see more commercial space exploration and missions that are dictated and directed by private companies instead of government bodies. This opens up the space exploration to much more possibilities. Alright, let's get into the next fact. Fact 2. Launched with the United Arab Emirates rover. Another interesting fact about the HAKUTO mission is that it's not really just the Japanese. It also included a lunar rover built by the UAE. The HAKUTO mission program actually had its own rover, but they've decided against it and carried the Rashid UAE lunar rover instead. But unfortunately, because the whole lunar lander crashed upon trying to land on the moon, the Rashid lunar rover was also completely lost. It was quite devastating to the UAE team that built and was going to maintain this lunar rover. They unfortunately chose to partner with a mission that was ultimately not successful, and because the whole lunar lander crashed, their rover was unrecoverable as well. And so this rover never saw use and was just simply crashed and destroyed upon impact. Alright, let's get into the next fact. Fact 3. Moon insurance. Another first of its kind in the HAKUTO mission is the purchase of moon insurance. This was the very first instance that a private company was able to purchase mission insurance from another private company. In this particular case, it was signed up with the Mitsui Sumitomo Insurance. This was jointly developed by the insurance company and ispace itself and covers the damage caused by the separation of the lunar lander from the rocket and upon landing on the moon. And unfortunately, the insurance does not cover damage to individual cargo on board the lander, which means that the Rashid rover is not likely going to be compensated. However, because this is the first time the private lunar lander is insured, and because the mission was a failure, the Mitsui Sumitomo Insurance Company is going to unfortunately have to pay out compensation for the entire lunar lander mission. Of course, it's going to be in millions and millions of dollars because it is not easy to build and launch such a vehicle. Alright, fact 4. Flew in space for 4 months. Another very interesting fact about the HAKUTO mission is that despite the fact that it was launched in December 22 with a Falcon 9 rocket off of Cape Canaveral in Florida, it actually didn't go directly to the moon. The lunar lander and space vehicle actually took a lot of time orbiting around the Earth and took about 4 months to get into the right trajectory that is a long but a fuel-saving trajectory so that they can carry as much cargo as possible while still able to maintain a trip to the moon. It's incredibly interesting that they chose to do this rather than go directly to the moon, because the mission is a lunar mission. But because of the payload that they wanted to take up to space and to go to the moon with. Unfortunately, they had to do this. They had to circle the Earth in a low energy orbit for about 4 months before they can actually get into the lunar orbit and attempt to land. Who knows if they went directly to the moon if the mission would be successful. If you think about it, the mission failure was attributed to a last change in landing zone and also errors in the altimeter of the lander. What if there was no last minute change to the landing zone? Perhaps the mission will be a complete success and the lander and rover will now be traversing the surface of the moon gathering important scientific data. Alright, let's get into the next and final fact. Assembled in Germany. Another super interesting fact about the HAKUTO lunar lander, it was that it was assembled in Germany instead of completely homegrown in Japan. Normally, this would be very strange because most space missions are funded by a government, and one government generally does not ask another government or another company in a separate country to manufacture its space vehicles. However, because this was completely private funded, it makes sense that if they can find a company around the world that can offer to assemble and build the lunar lander at a reasonable cost, they're going to do it. They're not going to have some kind of patriotic sense of obligation to have to build it in their home country. And so as a result, a German company was chosen to build and assemble the HAKUTO lander. Unfortunately, because the mission was a failure, I'm not so sure if the German company that was selected to build this lunar lander is going to be impacted, because their reputation is now on the line, and having to build a faulty lunar lander, it may not help them in the future. Alright, that's it for my video today. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. See you next time.